In any society, regardless of country or era, there is such an unsightly phenomenon as prostitution. The more strictly people's lives are regulated, the fewer opportunities they have to satisfy their sexual needs naturally, the more bizarrely love for money becomes. In Afghanistan and some other countries, for example, there is rampant trafficking of boys between the ages of 10 and 17 who are used by adult men for carnal pleasure. Today I'm going to talk about the anti-humane sex tradition Bacha Bazi. It's a channel of learning the world. Let's go! The ancient philosophers, including such famous ones as Plato, Epicurus, and Socrates, paid much attention to this issue in their writings. We know from these writings that in the ancient world, sexual relations between adult men and teenage boys were quite common, not at all condemned in society. On the contrary, the sages of Hellas and Rome sometimes argued among themselves over which love was purer and more moral, for a woman or for a boy. In the heyday of militaristic Sparta, mature and experienced warriors often patronized their younger comrades, and such relationships were not considered, as they say in the modern army, unstatutory. For a long time in theaters in many countries of the world, women's roles were performed by men. They dressed and wore makeup accordingly. Originally the geisha, a profession that originated in medieval Japan, was also a male one. Later the fairer sex noticed the demand for such services in society and began to entertain guests. In the 9th and 10th centuries a similar phenomenon emerged in the territory of modern Afghanistan and Pakistan, though with its own specifics and local flavor. We are talking about Bacha Bazi. It is when teenage boys, dressed up in women's clothes, entertain men with erotic dances and songs. If it were limited to performances, no one would say anything about child prostitution. But Afghanistan is a poor country, and demand creates supply. And after the show program the boys, as a rule, serve customers. The word bacha itself means lad, kid in Persian. The seemingly innocent Bacha Bazi, to play with a boy, has a very different meaning when spoken by adult men. In a poor Asian country torn by numerous military conflicts, thousands of little beggars walk the streets of villages and towns. Pimps who specialize in Bacha Bazi pick out the prettiest and most effeminate among them. Sometimes children are simply grabbed on the street, pushed into a car, and taken away. Some poor parents with many children sell their sons themselves, knowing full well what fate awaits them. The boys are told straight away that if they disobey or try to run away, death awaits them. 10-year-olds are taught to sing and dance. Often this is done by former Bacha Bazis who have come of age and are no longer of interest to the customers. Trained to perform in public, children are brought to any holiday or entertainment where men gather. They watch with interest as the child, dressed up in women's clothing, wearing makeup, depicts an erotic dance. Usually the boy is left with whichever of the Bacha Bazi lovers pays the pimp the most. If one of the clients likes the young entertainer, he can buy him out into personal sexual slavery. Usually influential warlords own several Bacha Bazis because it is considered prestigious. On the official level, the Afghan authorities vehemently condemn this practice, but in reality many officials and high-ranking police officers cover up the illegal business of child trafficking. The Bacha Bazi themselves have different attitudes to their plight. Many resign themselves to the power of circumstance, some try to find a benefit for themselves by trying to please powerful clients so that they can enjoy their patronage in the future. Sometimes former masters do help their wards after they come of age, they give them jobs and money. But more often, older, mature guys who have lost their sexual appeal in the eyes of their clients are simply thrown out onto the street. The psychological trauma remains for life. Scientifically, the phenomenon of members of one sex behaving in a way that is characteristic of the other is called gender inversion. In the case of Afghanistan and Pakistan, the reasons for the vicious practice of Bacha Bazi are clear. Men here often do not have the opportunity to communicate with women. The polygamy of Easterners is a myth. In order to marry, a large kalam, bride price, must be collected and paid to the bride's family, and where can a poor man or even a man of average wealth get it? Not all spectators of Bacha Bazi performances are naturally gay or pedophile. Watching the dance of a nice young man, most likely, they imagine a beautiful girl, and even for these moments of self-deception they are willing to pay. The fate of the unfortunate boys themselves, however, is of little real concern to anyone. Residents of other countries who have learned of the existence of such practices in Afghanistan and Pakistan are often surprised by the apparent discrepancy between Islamic norms condemning homosexuality and pedophilia and the tradition of using boys for pleasure and carnal pleasures. But according to local residents, it is better to let sex-crazed men molest young tramps and children sold by their asocial parents than to steal girls and women whose honor should not be tainted in any way. In 2003, the novel Running for Wind by the Afghan writer Khalid Hosseini was published. This work tells the story of a boy who becomes the sex slave of a powerful official, a representative of the Taliban. Moreover, this type had raped the father of the child in question many years before, and then took on his son as well. Documentary filmmaker Najibullah Qureshi has done some serious work in exposing high-ranking compatriots who profit from trafficking children and take advantage of their services. His film, The Dancing Boys of Afghanistan, was shown in 2010 in Britain and the USA, and a year later it received an award from the human rights organization Amnesty International. That's all for today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye.